Bitch, are you jealous?
Oh shit, here we go again.
Bitch, are you jealous?
Oh shit, here we go again.
didn't really feel like doing the podcast today, guys. I know y'all got all dressed up, specifically D and Unique.
And period.
But I think that's the end of the podcast for today. Yo, stay safe, stay dangerous. Do both or do neither.
Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace. Fuck it. Do the damn podcast. Welcome to another episode of Type Beat. Live from outer space, an unapologetic studio. Type Beat is a producer, engineer podcast where we talk about all things producer, engineer, and honestly, whatever else we want to talk about. Today, we have the common, hosts, myself and others, and we got a guest in the building as well. My name is I Make Mad Beats, and behind me is...
What up, LJ1S?
This man ain't even barely on the camera. Let me do this. All right, go ahead, man.
What's good? LJ1S.
Unique.
C major.
D. Kid Maestro.
Tried to hold it in.
I don't know what they're laughing about. I'm ready to discuss topics.
Oh, man.
You know what? Okay, man. All right. Stop playing, man. All right. What we talking about, bro?
Man, Analog Gear, this is a engineer producing podcast, so Analog Gear, this is going to be interesting. Being that we have another songwriter by the name of D Goat, of course we have Unique songwriter, so we're going to talk about songwriting. And this one's going to be interesting. Who do y'all feel has been exploited more by the labels, artists or producers?
I definitely go with artists.
All right, before we hop into that, let me set up the rules and regulations. LJ just gave y'all the topics. Feel free to go ahead and start chiming in with your ideas, thoughts, concerns. Feel free to disagree with us. Feel free to call us out. Feel free to say cap. Whatever you say or engage with, we will as immediately as we can try to acknowledge and engage with what you're saying. What you guys are saying will be prioritized. We will stop talking about whatever we're saying to make sure that you guys are seen and heard. So please feel not just free to, but feel empowered to engage with the conversation. What's the first topic?
I feel like we should go with the artist joint. Producer, artist, as far as getting exploited by labels. So Unique, you said, right. Unique, you said.
I'm done.
You said artist, right? Why do you feel artist?
Yeah, I guess I only say artists because of what I've seen over the years. I've seen more artists get exploited by a lot of these big major labels rather than producers. I have seen a few of them, but not as much as I've seen artists be taken advantage of. What do y'all think?
Man, I don't have no facts or no like real backing, but I definitely think it's producers. I don't know one famous. Maybe there are a few. Maybe Pharrell or Timbaland. Maybe some of them. But every producer that I've ever heard of any type of story has at least one badass pub deal, like one badass publishing deal that they hate, that they stuck. Hit Boy right now,
right?
He's one of the hottest producers in the world.
Yeah,
is stuck in the worst publishing deal I've ever heard of. This nigga's still not out his deal.
Yeah, he's still in
he
that.
Signed 20 years ago, bro, because of the way points work out, because of the way percentages work. Because the way they count a song, he did 1 million songs, but in publishing world, they only amount to like 10 or some dumb shit like that. Because he split credits with other people. You got to be this percentage of the owner of the song and shit. I think, and I just think in quantity, producers are more. There are more. I think there are more producers than artists. Like I think we get these, or not we. I've never signed a pub deal, but producers get these pub deals, and I think it's like more vast than like artists. Like an artist gets a deal, I don't know, maybe they sign artists like crazy, but I just feel like producers be getting murked, and I just don't know one. I know artists without that story. Now artists be getting murked too. I'm not saying they don't, but I definitely know artists that like, especially now. Like I think artists we got a lot of artists still getting fucked up with, but I think artists are coming in with leverage, like more leverage. Because what are labels even doing? Like, what are you?
Yeah.
Most of these artists now coming with leverage to really work out. If you know what to do, they're really working out some pretty sweet deals, and really good loans type situations. But
Yeah, I feel like it might be. I think in today's time, I would say the producers, because I feel like there was a period back in like the Motown era days, whatever, where like, man, I feel like the producer was just more important. There were less producers, and they were more involved with like the whole operation. You know what I'm saying? Like they were producing all the artists, where now an artist is working with all the producers. You know what I'm saying? It kind of
Yeah.
the triangle is kind of inverted. And like I just hear stories every year about like, man, I had a fight to get paid this, you know what I'm saying, $5,000 or whatever
Nah, that's real.
to get paid, and then you got to get legal representation. You spend all the money
that
you would make to try to get the money. So it's like, you know, I feel like that part is what gets exploited. Like niggas be waiting years for that one little check. You know what I'm saying? So.
and by the time you get the check, you got to pay folks back because you didn't borrow money and
Fact.
loans. Yeah, I definitely think now in this age, I like I said, I think it's definitely more producers in the sense that like because you make so many beats, but it's, like you said, it's not about how many beats you make or necessarily how many songs you make. It's how the contract is written up. The point system is different. But at least I would say the craziest story I've heard was, I can't remember his name, but it was a young producer. I think they signed that man like 5 years for like $20K or something like that. And that's insane. Again, I don't know the whole contract situation, but just that idea, like just $20K, that's all you getting up front, like for 5 years, bro.
That's all he negotiated.
I mean, but again, you young, you don't know, but that's what we're talking about. Like, they take advantage of that.
The exploitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otaku Sauce, what up?
What up?
Shout out. Yo, he came by a couple days ago, so shout out. It was good to meet you in person, finally, see what you look like. You know what I mean? Got to come back to the lab
dog.
soon.
Otaku says that hit home. I got loans and borrowed funds now.
Damn. Damn.
Ain't nothing like owing money, bro.
Man, I hate it.
That shit's
Ain't
trash.
nothing like owing money. Hey, ain't nothing like throwing money.
Period.
I feel like even past the labels too, though, like on the independent game, like you would not be able to go very far, and you would not be able to. You wouldn't have to search very hard to find like an independent rapper or whatever. Literally getting on Instagram saying, "Yo, if your beat is on YouTube, I'm not paying you for it." Like you know what I'm saying?
That was
Like,
today. I seen that. I was like it's wild.
Are we hold on? Is the discuss just so I'm clear?
Yeah.
Is the discussion who gets exploited more or who gets exploited more by the label?
it was who gets exploited more by the label, but I just expanded it. Like even if you include the independent game.
Because of me.
Yeah, I just was mentioning like I just think across the board, like producers are just getting yeah.
No, I feel like it's producers too, but off of just like sheer amount of volume. So like if you get signed to a label as a producer, they like, yeah, we got XYZ amount of artists, just say like 20 artists, and each one of these artists need like 15, 20 beats because we getting ready to do like rollouts. And now you're the person who's having to do that, and they not asking the artist like, yeah, nah, man, we need you to come out with your next 5 albums like within the next 2 days type deal. You know what I'm saying? So just like the sheer amount of like output, and then on the other end, back to what he was saying with like the YouTube beats and everything like that. There's not really a way to regulate that prior to. So say you were a YouTube producer that was just like making type beats, and then you then get signed, and that catalog is now owned by an entity. So like that's extra work that you would have to do and go back, especially if you do have independent artists who are like, I'm not paying for your beats. So that's just the whole other can of worms in and of itself.
I've heard. I think I know this was some years back, but one story that comes to mind. I think Trinidad James, when he did All Gold, the producer that the way he got the beef, I believe, was on like B Star, so he paid like $35 or something like that, and you know, you
Yeah,
signed
that's
the con.
another one, but that ain't the fault of the
Yeah.
label. Like that's the producer's fault. The designer John too with Kanye, they went crazy. They designed
Panda
about their
joint.
beat for like $20 or something. Yeah, Panda about their beat. It's a plenty of like
Crazy.
type beat stars situations, that are. But I don't even think that's exploitative. I think that's just
That's the
a part of
business.
their game, and
Yeah.
their game is just full of a bunch of kids that just don't.
Fact.
They're just not. I wouldn't even say it's a bad thing. Like they just need money. Like they need,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Designer wasn't even big at the time, so he wouldn't have known to be like, hey, let me, you know what I'm saying. But I feel like that's where I like Illmind's. Like I love the way Illmind contracts be set up, like his royalty free loops. But it'd be like it's royalty free. But if a major come and pick this motherfucker up,
need
we
that.
gon' renegotiate, my nigga. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out. We gonna. And I love that type of like. Don't set yourself up to just be. All right, this $20, and then this shit go platinum, and you just like got to put this in your Instagram bio that I produced it. And that's how you do it.
I think the
Who do you think has had like more control over their stuff?
situations.
Yeah, over their situation.
You talking about producer versus artist?
Who do you feel like has more control over like what they get or what they don't get?
Uh, Going like when talking to a label, I don't think that's a producer or artist thing. I think that's what we were talking about last week. It's whoever has the most leverage. Like, what have you done to go into these? I don't know historically if producers or artists can say they have more control. Yeah, I feel like that's just like what have you done to up
Right.
until this point that you can.
And that's what I'm thinking. Even with the leverage aspect of it, like even if you're a young producer or a young artist, I feel like if you don't have that brand, and again, producers for the most part is known to be in the background. So I feel like if you're in one of them situations, you kind of force yourself to have to be out to create the brand and look for yourself. Because if you are in a fucked up deal, you stay in the background, it's over with for you. You know, but like as an artist, unless you're shelved, but if you're doing shows and stuff, there's still opportunity to like show the world who you are. But if you just on some, I'm a producer, I just make beats, and you in a fucked up situation, it's a wrap. Like you're gonna remain back there, you know.
What you feel on that, Matt?
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I don't even think it's close, to be honest. Like, this is almost an insult to producers to even have this conversation. Yeah, I mean, and I don't even mean that on like, well, let me tack that down into what I'm talking about. Like, who's gonna get exploited more, right? Is it the artists or the producers? The artists are the ones signed to the label, right? They're the asset that needs some level of protection. They'll deal with some level of exploitation for sure, right? But they're surrounding their asset with soil and all the other things. The soil is producers, right? The producers are the first and the easiest to be replaced. They're the last to get paid. You know, either them or the engineers.
Yeah.
Are the last to get paid when working with labels. You know, and even if the artist gets paid like some, amount at some ridiculous time later, at least they've had their brand built in a way that creates opportunities for other streams of revenue, right? Again, protected and promoted by the label, right? Producers are honestly just throwing beats and hoping that they don't get robbed.
Yeah.
It's not even close. And just like LJ said, like, it's kind of sad because, you do have to kind of build yourself up as a voice, right? So like me in this city, if somebody doesn't pay me or if somebody pays me improperly, like, I can say something and it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? But if a producer who made the same exact thing I did at the same level, same skill, same sound, but is not on TV, right? Has these issues, imagine that. Like, a larger company is okay with that person being angry at them and screaming at their 48 people who will follow them on Instagram. Who cares, right? And so you do have to build yourself up to be respected in this way. You know, I can't think of a more capitalist, lane in entertainment than the music industry, because it's literally like, if like you're at the mercy of Goliath unless you build yourself up to become Goliath. And sadly, there are two lanes to become a Goliath. One of them is getting Goliath over and over and over again, right? Until you have some sort of notoriety and then can finally speak up. The other is to build your own world, right? To find an artist. I was just listening to Monty Booker, and Monty Booker linked with Smino when Smino wasn't famous, when Smino wasn't doing much. You know what I'm saying? And they built up something to where now that they're in that realm, Monty, he's not coming in as just some producer that is just, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's built something, but you have to start from the ground and you have to do it yourself. It's just you and an artist in a room building a world, and then there's a demand for that, and then that changes your leverage when it's time to negotiate with labels and other entities. Unfortunately, that's the way that I think intimidates people the most. So they end up going the first way, which is to, like, let me just go ahead and get Goliath enough times,
Yeah.
and then on the 8th time, I'm gonna stand up for myself.
Yeah, and I think it's even with that dynamic of you just talking about like Monty and Smino, like in several situations I've heard where like once artists get signed, like the label tries to change their entire sound. Like, we got other producers, we ain't worried about who you came in with type of situations. And I'm like, I think that's another aspect of it, which is why it's important for, again, in this day and age, producers to have their voice and have their brand, because you can't get left out.
Yeah.
That was also a good point that you brought up, Matt, about just y'all talk about easily being replaced, because there are producers in the machine that they use to exploit other producers. Like, they'll just
Facts.
remake
Facts.
people's beats if they're too difficult or whatever. Or just don't want to give you an, what I'm saying, take this beat and remake it. You know what I mean? And a producer will do that too. Like, so yeah, it's rough out here.
That's really on some Uncle Ruckus type shit, bro.
Man,
You know what? I need a nigger that's gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? You're like, yes sir, master, I got you.
I'm done.
no, crazy thing is though, I don't know if this.
You like this now?
We were just talking about how, like, I don't want to make it a race thing, but we were talking about like just how producers of other cultures, or whatever, like how they study our music to a T, to the point where like you think they're part of the culture, but again, they're there to remake, recreate, replace. It's about the dollar versus what we were talking about, just how we appreciate what we're building as producers, as involved in the culture, and what we're trying to say about it. But I feel like once you get to the label point, they don't really care about none of that. Just depends on who you're with, I guess. But yeah, that's
Who you with? Get crunk. Who you with?
that's ugly, man.
Yeah, producers win on
Producers
exploitation.
win.
You know what I mean?
Exploitation.
We won the suffering
Damn.
gold medal.
Damn, we suffer more.
Nah, you
That's-
wasn't out here like that, bro. I ain't had no shoes, bro.
Yo, who was that?
Yo, I swear.
Shout out my G now.
Yo.
Shut up. Shout out my G now. That's a genius. Man.
Now, maybe not today, but one giant, maybe a revamp in a later episode, is to talk about producers and songwriters. Because songwriters be getting
I think songwriters right now, and I'm glad y'all brought up engineers, because they got I don't know what's the bottom, like is it the engineer or the
song.
bro. I didn't even know too. I didn't know this was like a thing. Like Pierre was like signed as an engineer to Sony. Like I knew studios had engineers and you worked at like a 9 to 5 or whatever like that. This nigga was like made to record people. That's how he met Nudie. Like he was just made to record people. He'd sit in the room all day, he record and they like he had to sneak his beats and shit. Like he had to
crazy.
sneak that he was a producer and
This
shit.
nigga's Pierre Bourne.
And legit work with Sony. Like I didn't know that was honestly a thing. I didn't know like engineers were getting like signed, and it wasn't like a deal. It was like a 9 to 5 type situation. But he
Just work
definitely
for
They
hire
getting
type
hired.
situation.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
work
was
for hire
definitely hired.
situation.
Wow.
But it was just straight to Sony. Like I know you could work at a studio, but that was weird to me. But,
You just work for Sony as an engineer. I mean, I see that.
Niggas be on retainer or something, I guess.
Yeah. Man, but speaking about songwriting, we got two, I feel, dope songwriters here. Man, what are y'all?
You feel, nigga, it is.
I, in my opinion.
I mean, I
you know what I'm
can't,
saying?
I can't speak for other niggas.
I'll fuck
For
with
me,
it. I'll
you
fuck
know,
with
y'all niggas fire. Y'all approach with just writing for other artists. Like, I guess how much of yourself are you putting into the songwriting process?
Well, yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
So, and my experience is really depends on if they want me to write for a particular artist or if they just want me to make a song and give it to them, because there's a difference in that. Because there can be certain parameters like, hey, I want this song to be like Isaiah Rashad, Mick Jenkins esque, or I like what you do. Can you make me a song so I can put it in the catalog to give to other artists? So it really just depends on the request. If there's somebody else that's like, make this song XYZ person esque, I try to keep at least I'm gonna say probably about like 35-45%. That I feel like that's like a happy medium for me to be able to completely express myself the way that I need to, and then tweak it to where it fits the aesthetic or the assignment in order for me to just go ahead and get it off.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I definitely used to take that approach. But I'm more so just give all of me. Like if and I say that because sometimes I'm feeling certain, like in certain kind of ways of different artists, or I put myself in different artists' shoes or whatnot. And but I won't necessarily like sometimes I would like purposely try to sound like certain people, but then others I'll be like, well, people, will take it how it is, take me how I am anyway, so I might as well just be myself. But I I've written, like when I used to write for other artists a lot, I was more so writing from not necessarily trying to sound like certain artists, but more so like trying to sound like what the industry was listening to, what the industry wanted, or what mainstream wanted. Like I would listen to that catalog and be like, oh, okay, this is the kind of sound that they're looking for. I would more so go off of sounds, like. But I do like what Dee said. Like if they're looking for a specific kind of like lane or something like that, like I would go down that specific, I would just study down that lane of different artists or whatnot, and gear my writing towards that way. But I would still be authentically myself. I would definitely all the way still be myself.
So that's a follow-up question. You just talked about like basically framing your style in a sense for another artist or whatever. Like, so how do y'all feel? I know as a producer, and I feel I've heard this from most producers. You don't like the type beat when like, hey bro, I need a beat that sound like such and such other producer, right? Like as a writer and as an artist as itself, like how do y'all feel if someone approach you like, yo, I need a SZA style song?
Hey, I ain't even gonna. Yeah, I would give them. I don't know. I consider myself an anomaly because I can give that, like without a doubt. But I really try to like not give so much of someone else without giving a lot of me in it. if that makes sense.
As a songwriter, that's part of the job, right? If we're talking like songwriter, I think that's a part of like it's different from a producer. Like if you're writing a song for Monica, you're gonna want it to
Study
sound
Monica,
like Monica.
right,
You're
study
gonna,
Monica.
if you get the chance, you're gonna want to sit in a room with her and talk to her about like what do you got going on and all that stuff. And
Definitely,
really,
I also feel like sometimes, like, even though I'm writing for this person, they chose me and my writing style, so I would still kind of incorporate a little bit of me, but definitely I would like. One of Monica's song, I give you heartbreak. You know what I'm saying? One MJ, Mary J. Blige song, I give you pain and love and, boots. And, hey, shout out to Mary.
When y'all say give, like D, you said, I try to make sure I incorporate like 30% of me, and Unique, you're saying you try to make sure that there's some of you in it. Like, is there a way that you like quantify that? Like, how do you know? Like, what is included in a 30%? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Song. You know what I mean?
So the term that I like to use is servicing the song versus servicing yourself. So in the songwriter and producer landscape, it's very easy to just get into your own niche to where you can bump into yourself when you're creating something. So being of a service to a song means like, hey, if this is supposed to be a SZA type song that's about getting over a breakup, what does that sound like for one to the general public, and then what does that sound like to me? And then actually, sometimes I take the long way and I flesh out two different concepts. So like I'll flesh out a full concept of a song that I feel like is fully inspired by said artist, and then I would flesh out a song that's like just fully like my vibe, and then I would pick out different pieces of each one to make something new that I feel like would be a good thing to submit into the marketplace.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely, when I say giving like a little bit of me, I more so give a little bit of me as far as like creativity, the way I approach the song. The way Monica would approach a song would be a little bit different from how I would approach it, but I would still like it'll kind of be like retail a little bit or something like that, or selling a drink. Like you give them a drink that they're always used to having, but you'd be like, hey, if you add a little lemon slice to it, add this, that, and the other to it, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like maybe it'll pop better or whatnot. That's what I mean by like giving a little
cut
bit
like a lemon.
yeah, period. Sharp.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was really just curious if there were like things that you identified that's uniquely your style or your sound that
Definitely.
you could say, okay, like if you throw that in there, like that's me. Like if it was somebody like a producer, it might be the type of snare.
Right.
You can hear a Monty snare. Like what is a D songwriting snare? What is a unique songwriting snare? Something that when you throw it in there, you could tell Unique wrote it or D wrote it.
My vocal approach. Like the way
An ambiguous answer.
Honestly, for me, I would say because I do primarily rap, I would either do like a cadence or a rhyme scheme that's very unique to me and how I specifically make my song. So like if there is something that's like where it's just like A B A, like sometimes I'm like a person, I'll go A B C, or I'll go like A B, somewhere like that. So it can just be like that little bit of like how I put my words together in the midst of me making the overall rhythm.
like if the baby tried to write a song for somebody else, you would definitely know.
You gonna know, bro.
oh, definitely.
And just like how other songs are coded, like sometimes you could make a song and it's completely your song, but the song that you're submitting it, the people that you're submitting it to, can make it their own way until you actually listen to it back. Like my favorite example is Lil Yachty with the City Girl song. Like after they say that and you go back and listen to it, you be like,
but it was very well hidden. Caribou too, like the same. Everything Yachty write, every song that I've heard he's written for. He did a bunch of Drake songs too, and I was like, damn, this shit sound like Yachty like a motherfucker. Yachty is a great songwriter. That was a good. He's such a great song.
Definitely.
So let's just say you wrote a song and you are submitted to an artist. Like, how locked in are you to the idea of what you submitted? So let's just say you get it back and it sounds nothing like you wrote it. Like, is that an issue for you? Or are you gonna let that fly? Like, is that a conversation? Like, how do you feel about that?
Ooh, that used to be a real big issue for me. I ain't even gonna lie.
Me personally, because I've been in the studio as a songwriter. It depends on what the splits are post them editing whatever it is that I did, because the percentage that you get if it's just me and one other person versus me, the artist, and the other two songwriters that he had with him in the studio on the day that I sent him the song, that's a completely different type of song structure in those particular type of splits. But that's something that you would work out beforehand, like to see what all the parameters of what you're submitting the song for is going to be, so you can be prepared for that. And now I'm not gonna submit like my life demo to somebody for a songwriting gig. That's something that I would keep for myself because I don't want my personal vision to be compromised. But if you're going into a collaborative setting, you can't go into that collaborative setting with a monopolistic mindset.
Really quick, my man Jason Harris says, I write what the industry wants all the time.
I'm done.
Stream cap. He also says, I asked for an Ollie and Jerry type beat.
This man.
I'm done with you, Jason.
Boo.
Boo. Boo that man.
Are those two real people?
Yo, you can't take nothing Jason said serious.
I do
Those
want to
two
know who
real
Ali and
people?
Jerry is.
This is
We got,
Jason.
you know what? Hold on, bro. We got the answers to everything.
Yeah, he's got ChatGPT. Who the fuck is Ali and Jerry? That's a real nigga. But no, I agree with what you were saying, D, on the like life work. I think that's a tricky one though, because of course you wouldn't go into a situation. Ali and Jerry are too real.
I'm
niggas.
done.
Dance pop duo.
I'm
From
done.
the 80s. I think it's interesting that dance is before pop.
Pop.
Yo,
They
But I-
pop
I-
already
Dance
jumped.
pop.
I guess
Dance.
that's the four on the floor
Pop
type pop
dance.
situation,
Yeah.
maybe.
You gonna,
They are best known for their 1984 hit "Breaking." There's no stopping it. Oh wow, they know
What?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
Damn.
Damn.
Them niggas hip hop history, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
With the history.
Shout out.
Right.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, no, I think that gets like tricky because I know the weekend has a situation like that with Drake, right? Take Care was like a weekend project at first, and it was like one of his, close to the heart, one of his like best works type situation. And he wasn't like bringing that to Drake
Drake just snatched it.
Drake just heard it and was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, I love this shit so much. Can I have it?" And like, and I don't know if I wasn't in the room, but the word on the street is he like low key kind of bullied him and like pressured him into like,
Wow.
let me get these joints, and it ended up becoming Take Care. And it was at some point it was all good because the weekend was XO, and then at some point it didn't get
it was
good.
all good until it wasn't.
Yeah. So I think those are like tricky situations that are always hard to maneuver. Like, what do you do when it's a Drake in the studio and then he like, let me get this album.
Right,
Like,
that's the
Yeah.
response. Change that album, nigga. Let me get this album.
how do you say no? Do you say no? Do you take that L?
I ain't,
Is it an L?
Right.
Yeah, it's
Like,
exactly.
honestly,
He became the weekend.
honestly.
Well, he was. I don't know. He became the weekend though.
And he already had a buzz, but he definitely
that
this
type of
nigga's
look.
on another level now. But at the time, though, when Take Care, I feel like it was L for a little bit. He was definitely suffering.
yeah. So it's again, it's 50-50. Like it really just depends because there's so many other stories of people who get into situations like that don't end up like the weekend. They just end up giving somebody their album and then nobody know about them no more. And so like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's really just like integrity. Like I'm running fades for my art, like straight up. Like,
Nubia Yassin says, I think I would throw up if I wrote Take Care and niggas took it from me. But I would also be like, well, time to write something better.
Exactly.
Yeah, put it better in the middle.
yeah,
That's
for
what
sure.
I was thinking. Like, I would definitely like categorize the ones that I don't want niggas to possibly steal or whatnot. But then again, that goes to like, nobody's really gonna hear everything, so let them hear it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't know. Like C May says, the situation is kind of tricky because you never know if it'll work out for you or won't. So it's kind of like a gamble either way.
Hit him with the this is not the right hard drive. But the song
It's
fit
not
off
the right
Damn.
hard.
the other hard drive. Yeah.
But I also think too, like now, I feel like it's difficult to get taken advantage of in the sense of like not, I guess, the artist taking advantage of that situation. So if Drake get your song and take it, like, I feel like unless it's something in the contract where you can't speak about it on some NDA type shit, but like that's a moment. Like I bet I wrote this for Drake. How do you tell that story to make it work for you?
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, you bet on yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes it works,
Definitely.
sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't work out as well for
Quinn Miller.
Quinn Miller.
That's just like one of my songs that I
Not working out.
That's crazy.
one of my songs I actually wrote for one specific group of women, and that song actually got stolen to give to another major artist. And they actually went, I think they went platinum on that song. I don't know if it went platinum, but I think it did really good. I think it got like over 500,000 something streams. But there was nothing that I could do about that. And it was very much so unfortunate. And the song got put out and everything. And it was a gamble. And I couldn't prove that I wrote it only because I was freestyling that whole song and wrote it on a piece of paper. And I thought the person that I was doing the music was, I could trust them. And yeah, they ended up showing me that I couldn't. So it's definitely a gamble. And I, like just write some more better shit. Like you're never done writing your best song. Never.
But also, protecting your intellectual property comes in a lot in that space too, because I guarantee you, like when The Weeknd had his little buzz, they was not talking to him about making sure that even the unreleased stuff is registered on BMI and copyrighted and everything like that, so that stuff like this wouldn't happen. Because if you go in there and you say no, and they be like, "All right, well, I'm gonna just do it anyway," it would just be your word against theirs unless you can tangibly prove. Like, so, like if I have this recording of what I did this day and this on my BMI is being registered since then, and you come out with this like 2 months later, then I can just take it to legal action and not have to worry about any of the additional stuff.
Well, with BMI, you can't put the sound recording on there. So that, that won't help.
I mean, the legal action, it sounds good, but it also depends
Yeah.
on at like what level you are at, because
Because money talks.
Because it really depends. Because you don't really know that you need an entertainment lawyer until you need an entertainment lawyer.
and by the time it's too late then. At that case,
You extorted.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, artist protection program. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Period.
this is why how much producers make, that price has dramatically dropped. How much lawyers charge has not.
Facts. Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And so, producers are significantly less likely to walk in the door armed with an entertainment lawyer,
Facts.
right? Because, you're absolutely right. Like, to get a big break is sadly an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? And so, that's how you're moving, and major labels know this. Like, it's a part of their approach, right? It's a part of what they're hoping on. They're feeding off the oil of the music industry is desperation. It's what eases the gears and makes everything roll. Is that everybody will do anything to get some sort of opportunity, to get some sort of check, even if it's $500. You know what I'm saying?
That's
it's
right.
like just to be able to brag and say, "Hey, I was on this song," or "I was a part of this."
Yep.
They know. You'll chop off your hand for that, and they're going to take advantage of that.
That's right. That's right.
That's ugly.
Yeah, and that's why, I just be real, man. Like, that's why, like, well, I'll say two things. Number one, that's why I'm here in such an odd way. I definitely have a very unusual journey into being a music producer, right? But I did it in a way to where I didn't want every 3 months to be going to war with some label and somebody giving me a net 7,000 contract that I'm going to get paid for when my son is a grandfather. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to go through that. And I didn't, for me, it wasn't worth it. But I found an avenue and a lane to where I didn't have to deal with that. That's number one. Number two, in my opinion, And this is why a year ago I developed this thing called the Artist Protection Program, which is it's a program that hopefully I can get the city to really implement. I've had, as y'all know, I'm on committees directly working with the city. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that I'm hoping that we really put into motion. Is the idea that, like, yeah, we're a city filled with musicians who do not escape the poverty line.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? And so when you say things like, well, did you put it in the contract? Right? What does that matter if somebody can't afford somebody to execute the contract?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Now that's gaslighting. That's like you're just playing around. You know what I'm saying? Like, because even if it is in the contract, they still got to pay somebody thousands of dollars, not a few hundred,
to break it down.
thousands of dollars
Yep.
to enforce that contract, which severely limits the earnings. So even if they do make $10,000, how much do they have to pay to make that $10,000? Now they're netting $900 after 4 to 6 to a year's worth of work. You know what I'm saying? And you're really only getting bragging rights, and you're limping into the next battle. You have not really been empowered.
Yep.
Right? And so for me, it's like, all right, cool. Well, I do see that running rampant, but it's running particularly rampant wherever desperation is at its highest. That happens to be Memphis, Tennessee. Right? If there can be a city level wide ordinance or approach or initiative or program where if you do put something in a contract, if you're a musician and you have something in a contract, either about getting paid at a certain time or getting paid a certain amount, right? Like, there are built-in mechanisms into City Hall, into the government here, to penalize organizations that are taking advantage or exploiting artists.
Man, we need that for sure.
Right? Man, two things will happen. Right? Or one of two things will happen. Either organizations will be like, damn, we can't exploit artists anymore. Let's actually give
be
them
fair.
what they're worth.
Yeah.
Let's give them their money on time.
Yeah.
Right? Or they don't do that. They get fined the same way you would get fined for parking in the wrong place downtown. Right? And all of that money would go into a pot to build things for artists and the industry in this city.
Yeah, I think that's still like an ugly situation, especially if you're dealing with like a label, because they got the money. So if it's like a few thousand, like we'll lose that. It's nothing. Especially if they know they're going to, again, they have the best lawyers and all that. If they're going to, like, this is going to be a year-long process. We can hold out. We can wait. As far as the songwriting artists, like, in most of those situations, especially if you're just like trying to build your name up, you ain't got a year or two to try to fight this battle. Like you were just saying, like the funds ain't the same.
Funds ain't funding.
It's an ugly game, man. But I mean, the business of it is, and I think that's the hard part. Like just being an artist or a creative in general, like you want to create a life for yourself, doing what you love to do, but it's like, how much of that, like, do you, I guess, jump into this world, this game, this business, if you ain't got the funds? And I feel like that's some people, they hold themselves back, or they don't even attempt because they think of, like, I've heard people say, like, I don't post beats or whatever because someone steal it and all this other stuff, and they don't feel like they have the necessary funds or whatever to back up, their property, so to speak. I don't know. It's just ugly.
Putting things on paper is only as important as your ability to enforce the contract. Right? It's like creating laws, but there's no police.
Right.
How valuable is the law? Is if you break it, nobody's going to show up. Like,
Yeah.
And so people often forget that. They just say contract, put it in the contract, put it in an agreement. It's like, bro,
Who's going to enforce that shit?
Right.
Yeah. Do you have the money to enforce that?
Yeah.
Because you're going to need it.
Facts, man.
Got road trip money?
Already struggling to survive.
Yo,
You
for
already
real.
only making $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 a year.
Literally.
The average musician here isn't even making $20,000 a year.
At all.
When are you? Come on, man. Let's
You
be
working your
realistic.
ass out. Do you got the time?
And
to
a
track
lot
shit
of them
down?
are parents.
Yeah. You said most of them still got jobs and
For
still
real.
trying to
You got
working
time to
12-hour
use.
shifts and
the one chance you do get your shit, now you labeled as a problematic.
Yes.
Bro, don't even,
For real,
bro,
for
calm
real.
down. Don't get me started, bro.
Like real
You know what I'm
shit.
saying? Nah, that's real as hell, man. I can't tell you how many times, you know, and that's the thing is cities like Memphis are small, right? So you wanna have a great relationship, not just to maintain a lucrative relationship or a beneficial collaboration,
It
right?
affects others.
Yeah, because like, nah, man, like, bro, don't do this. Pay me on time so that way we can keep doing this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't have to call you out, and then now it's things are getting messy, and there's a mess
Facts.
associated with me.
Yep.
That's I would prefer to it be only thing associated with me is I delivered a product that is great.
Fact.
You know what I'm saying? And X, Y, and Z, and it's like, bro, like y'all are making us like I don't want to have to protest. I just want to do my job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I did my job.
Right, I did my
Yeah,
job.
that
I'm gonna
part,
get paid for
that
it.
part.
You know what I'm saying?
That part.
And that's the thing. I told a story, man. You know, at one of the arts and culture meetings here, where I was just saying how, like, you know, I'm trying to figure out how specific I'm gonna get, but you know, there was a moment in New York where an organization made me come out of myself in a way I didn't like. It made me have to do things I don't ever want to do to get the money I was owed. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people understand what you're playing with when you're playing with people's lives with their money, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and I think it's because the people who are likely to pay artists, they can wait 6 months for a $5,000 check.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They can like, like they can just be upset at the principle of getting it late. You know what I'm saying? Most of these artists in Memphis, they not just upset at the principle of it. They gotta pay their rent.
Right.
Facts.
That's
You know
how
what I'm
they
saying?
finna eat.
Like it's not just about integrity. It's like, bro, if I don't get this money by the 30th, you know what I'm saying? Like
getting
it's gonna be a
Niggas,
problem.
man, niggas looking
You know what I'm
ugly.
saying?
And the time you spend doing the job, like, could have been
Thank
doing
you.
something else to get
Say
the money.
that.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying is like, you know, like I don't think these organizations realize, and I'm gonna say this in the most like objective way. This is not like I hope people don't take this as like a threatening way, but I don't think that they realize who they're fucking with. You know what I'm saying? Like you better pay these people on time. Like,
They ain't got
what?
shit
Do
to
you
lose.
under-
You got a lot more to
Do you
lose.
understand how many people in Memphis are from environments to where if you threaten their money, they have a few options, my G.
Man.
Very
What do you
few.
think they are?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
either
let's
you
be
or me.
honest, bro.
Yeah, that's real.
Like Memphis is not a whole. Everybody got random $10,000 in their savings account that they can just use until they get paid. Do you know what Memphis is? You better pay these folks.
Checks.
Are they showing up at your door?
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
ASAP.
Like, in other words, like, bruh, make this artist protection program. Everybody do what they supposed to do.
And everybody
And
go
then-
home.
We'll be all right.
We shake hands and
Somebody
keep it
Yeah.
moving.
Absolutely,
Keep it
bro.
moving.
Woosah.
Absolutely.
Sneaky ass net 30s. Fucking net.
and then be sneaking it up to net. Exactly.
Bruh.
Sneaky net 30 is the one.
Net
nigga.
30.
Right. Net 30 is the worst.
Net
And I
30.
still don't understand
Net
it.
75 is insane, bro. Like, I just, you don't need to be. I mean,
Bruh, net now.
net
now, nigga.
bro.
What the fuck?
Need that.
That now. Need that
Got a
shit.
lot of comments.
Damn.
Let's
I'm
see what we got going on in the
Okay.
comments.
Shit.
Niggas really
Kojo.
Come on, Google.
He says, you're not selling out as long as your check affords you to craft what you want. Electricians don't care about who has the broken fuse, such as art. I agree with this. I can't say I know how this applies to what we're talking about.
I
It
think that
sounds
was
like,
with the weekend situation.
Okay.
Maybe.
okay,
Such as art is a dope way to end it.
such as art.
Come on.
Shaniqua Foster, what up, Shaniqua? She says, not to pitch in the comments, but I agree. Man, I can't act like I know how to say that.
The Archer.
Archer Club, started by entertainment lawyer Angela Green, was created for people in film and music to have access to lawyers. It's $50 this year. That's what's up.
That's good.
You can call them and discuss your contacts. I can shoot my link for those who want to join.
Hey.
I love it. Okay.
She in here.
She out here.
She on the ground. I respect it.
Shout out to the resources.
I respect it. Contract and download contracts from the library, no doubt. My G, Mikkel says, Kojak and myself got jacked by the Jungle Brothers. Damn, not the Jungle Brothers. Back in 96. They was on their way out in 96. It was so bogus. We gave a tape to De La Soul road manager. Fall in 96. Our song was on the radio.
Wow.
That's tough.
Wow.
Damn.
Jeez, at 96 though.
And you can't complain about it online in 96.
Man, in 96, you gotta eat that.
Man.
That's crazy.
You gotta pull up for real in 96.
You in a random chat room.
It's like 6 niggas in there. You're like, nigga, that's my
You
song.
picking up your landline at your house,
Oh,
calling
God.
your phone.
Call the people.
You gotta take a road trip.
Yeah.
We got on
You gotta
feed.
take a
We got
road
a
Don't
trip.
listen to that.
we got a free team.
Yo.
Don't
They
play that
need
song.
to run me. You think you need the bread now? You gonna need the bread then?
You're out
Huh?
there looking for them AOL 253 minutes.
Have a billboard. Run me.
Hey,
I love that.
that was what you
Angela Green. Oh, my bad. I just want to come back to
said.
this.
Say Angela Yee.
The Archer Club was created by Angela Green and people in film and music that have access to lawyers is $50 for this year. For the year. So is that like a? I gotta do some more research on that. I gotta find out what exactly $50 gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that way, because that's wild. If I can just pay $50 and be like, all right, bro,
Man.
I murdered somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Figure it out.
You got me.
I'm gonna go chill.
I paid you to figure.
Oh, no. I did my part. You got one job.
You know what I
I
mean?
did my part.
It seems like it reminds me of back in the day, the consortium downtown.
Downtown, yeah.
It's part of that where you can go in and talk to a
yeah.
lawyer, but they aren't giving you official
Legal
legal
advice, yeah,
advice.
yeah,
type
yeah.
shit.
That was-
Memphis Music Foundation.
Yeah, that was Memphis Music Foundation.
Yeah.
That wasn't a consortium at all. I don't think so.
David Porter. It was
No, it's
definitely
part of that,
a part of David Porter's like whole program.
Word?
Yeah,
No?
they
Yeah.
got like the.
Well, you could do that with the Memphis Music Foundation, which predated that. So, in fact, that's how, according to my good friend John Miller, Jazzy's early publishing deals were navigated like by lawyers through the Memphis Music Foundation. Yeah.
dope.
Because I definitely never remembered that specific program. with the
Kojo
consortium.
says a union. Not everybody got Taylor Swift level sway. Fully agreed, no doubt. Mikhail says it was a charted song too. Damn.
Damn. Nigga, you hit the chart. Mine did too, Mikhail, so don't feel bad.
But that's
Mine actually had me bobbing my head.
damn.
Nigga, I'm bumping it.
Literally.
I was just thinking about in '96 though.
Literally.
Like,
I can pull up the song after the show.
Yeah, no, my spin the block game would have been crazy.
yeah, we gotta pull up '96, bro. Like you said, ain't no IG, ain't no going live.
But that's why we need options, so we don't gotta crash out. Because there are people who
That's
are
it,
prepared to do that.
It's in the contract. You ain't got no lawyer. You right. It's time to crash out. That's the next step. If I don't have a lawyer to enforce this contract, I will crash out.
Follow
It's not even
And crash out is
Period.
just vague enough to say you wasn't threatening nobody, but maybe you were. Like,
Yeah.
There would be extreme measures taken.
If for some
extreme
reason
levels of crash out.
capital or funds are not available to enforce this contract, other options will be taken.
I'm done.
Other options, and then in quotes, crashing out. You know what I'm saying? Crash out has to be the
You
phrase.
gotta be in there. You gotta
It does have to be.
let niggas know what's up.
Nah, fact.
In the contract, you got to sign your name, email, and actual address.
No.
That's to pull up. That's what Mikhail them should have did.
I'm done.
Actual address,
Oh,
not the studio
Actual
address,
address,
not your
bro.
PO box, bro.
That's it. Dog.
Pull it up
Just
on
in
you.
case I gotta pull up. Anyway, bro, check this beat out.
Man, so thinking about this got me thinking about just, the status of being an artist trying to come in the game versus the labels or whatever, and how much the money matters to that degree of what you can do. But because this is a, producer engineer podcast, switch over got me thinking about the idea of analog gear. And like, does that help create the status of who you are and what you bring to the table.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about these transitions is that we announce the topics at the beginning, but you still like, you know, I was, and it had me thinking, you know what I mean? Like, I fuck with it, bro. Your art is crazy.
And
Hey, y'all with
because of what you just said, it feels like what we should
In
really
the
be
same
talking
mind
about.
again. Since we on this subject.
Right.
I respect it, bro.
We talking about this. Y'all not even getting to the real root of the issue. The real root of the issue is
This right here. I wasn't even gonna go there.
But since we
here,
What y'all think about?
I'm just saying, you know, it's part of the equation. You know?
Shout out, man.
But yeah, man, because just software itself in the engineering world I feel like it has improved so much, man. Like when niggas get to talking about the analog gear, like is it just on some, yeah, I do this? Like, does that really matter at this point? So is it a status thing? Does that, you said you have analog gear, like does that work in bringing in clientele? Does that work in just, I guess, part of your brand? Like, does that even, I feel like in the 90s and stuff, you having the gear, like that was part of it. You have to go to the studio. You have to, you looking for the engineer that has the latest whatever. Like, in 2025, does that matter?
Man, I think that, well, let me just start by saying, the gear makes a difference in the sound for
Definitely.
sure. So that's, I think when you hear it and you get into it, like that becomes the primary reason, because you can hear the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely feel that like machines, especially in the producer engineer world, like most people getting started now are getting started in their bedroom somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's rare that their early introductions are in a studio with a bunch of stuff. So that's just what they know. It's really just a laptop and a Focusrite. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so
it's really just a laptop and
Shout
a
out.
USB microphone.
Yeah.
It ain't even
Shout
no
out.
interface. It's
Snowball
just-
joint.
and so you see all these people that you look up to. Yeah, I got this.
Don't do it like that, man. Shit.
You got all these people, and then you hearing people. Yeah, I got this, or I got even like the SP404. Like that just is like a vibe. It makes you seem more official. Just like at one point, the NPC made you just seem more official. Just to have.
Damn. The shade.
Jump you, bro.
Damn.
If you have an NPC now, you know it's come back. You know what I'm saying? But there was a period,
Damn.
bro. There was a period where like. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't matter if you had the NPC studio, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when that was what was, you know what I'm saying? It was like a status giant,
thing.
and then you get it, and then you realize why it's a valuable machine,
Yeah.
right? You'd be like, oh no, this is actually lit, and now you want it because of the workflow or the sound or whatever. But I feel like the introduction to desire it, I feel like mostly comes from seeing people you admire and you wanting to be like them.
Yeah,
You know what
that
I'm saying?
makes
Like
sense.
it's like a status giant. And then I think for people who don't understand what is going on behind the machines, like we definitely are in a consumer society. So it's like either the most shiny, clean looking junk or who got the most. You know what I'm saying? Like there's hella niggas that wanted that OP1 was willing to pay $1,000 just to be able to post the videos. And, I'm minimalist and I'm, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It sounded just like that.
Yeah, that's like what they sound.
Yeah, it makes me think about like just a few sessions. Well, not a few, but several sessions I've been in like major studios, the big studios, all the crazy gear, whatever. But like the engineer don't even know how to, he don't know how to use none of it. And the artist in there, the other producer, whoever's
ain't there to
producing,
look good.
yeah, it just like they just in there taking pictures to post. Because again, it creates that aura of like, nah, I really do this. But I'm like, like, do you really?
I say this. I say this. You know, I think there's a few facets to this. So to talk about what you just immediately said, right? So somebody's posting up something. We in the studio. Let's say they got an SSL console in there, or some actual analog console, a Neve or an API. And, I think what immediately gives that engineer like credit or credentials is just the fact that he was chosen to be there. Like these are spaces that are not easily accessible, right, or easily opened up, to take to be there and to offer services and handle clients in these kinds of spaces because these are often multi-million-dollar spaces, right? So there has to be something about you that would say, hey, I know what I'm doing. Unfortunately, that is not always true, right? But I think that people are buying into that. I'll say this. I think, like, generally, I do think we're in an era where the possession of these things superficially means the least it's ever meant. Right? So I'm not saying it doesn't mean something, but it doesn't mean what it meant 10 years ago,
Right.
20 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I think that that's at the hands of several things. I think plugins and plugin developers have just gotten way better.
Yeah.
Technology is, the hardware is better, the software is better. And therefore, the difference between an actual Pultec EQ and, some emulation of a Pultec EQ is not as wide as it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. There's still a difference. Yeah. But it's not so far away to where it's just like, wow, the analog, like we have to go to the actual Pultec device. Now people are like, actually, this was good enough. Right? I think that that's the case. I also think, though, that, and just being honest, what I'm saying, like, engineers who have access to a whole bunch of analog devices, like, these are also culturally the least on social media, the least showing their methods, the least messaging their services, et cetera, et cetera. Usually, engineers and producers who are working with a whole bunch of analog devices, they're just locked in the studio. They're not, they're not explaining the difference, right? It's the guy with just a laptop and a subscription to Waves. He's the guy on IG like, I just got this new plugin. This is what it can do for your vocals, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's real.
Real.
And so I do think that there's a messaging differential there. And then I think lastly this. I think, as a guy I don't have a lot of analog gear, right? But I have enough to go to war. Sure, absolutely. There is, and I want to be clear about something too. I have the top emulations of the analog gear I have.
Facts.
So I can actually compare. I can actually compare. And I'll say this, I'll admit, you know what I'm saying? Like some of the plug-in versions, they come pretty close. They come pretty close. And sometimes when I have a great budget, when somebody's asked me to score something and they pulling out 5 figures, you know what I'm saying? And I have the budget to take the time to do something, that's when I'm going to use my analog stuff. Yeah. Right? But when we come in with today's budgets, and I got a recall, I might have to, adjust the mix, and I need to be able to recall my analog settings. I need to let my tubes heat up. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to run through something again. If I have an emulation of that, I might use that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it's quicker, it saves time. And I'm dealing with lower than necessary budgets, right? And I think that, that creates a variation in the product, in a way that, I think that, we talk about this. We talk about this a lot. Like, instead of changing the price, right? Change what you do for the price.
Yeah. For sure.
Right? So create another price that's, all right, now I'm doing less. Here's what you get. This fits your budget. Yeah. Right? And I'm gonna be real, man. Like, a lot of budgets, most budgets nowadays, they're not set up for me to have to recall and do revisions of extensive Pro Tools sessions running through analog devices.
Man, I know this is in the same vein, basically based off of what you were just talking about. Like, I struggle with that, and I'm just wondering, like, how do y'all deal with that? Like, in a sense, if you know the budget doesn't necessarily match the time that's required to get this, I guess maybe to your standard. Like, so how do you move in those spaces? How do you, like, I guess, have that cutoff? Because again, for me, I know I'm getting better with it. But when I first started, bro, I used to spend so much time on songs, even if the budget wasn't there, more so because I care about the music itself. I care about the final product. So, like, how do y'all navigate that?
I think the first thing there's lots of parts to this, but the first thing that comes to mind when you're explaining that is systems and templates.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, how do I not spend so much time on this? Like, is there a way to make this not cost me so much to get done? Like, that's like the first thought line of defense. And then the other is, I guess that's the first if you agree to do it. But the other part is like before, like taking the time to think about whether or not you agree to do something in the first place. And I think that goes back into what Matt was saying is like, okay, what's the different version? Or working out extra payment. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, my name is different on this. You know what I'm saying? Or my input to what is happening changes, right? This is now a Kid Maestro and such project, which means it is different. You know what I'm saying? I have more of a say, and it affects my brand differently. You know, like those kinds of things. Those are the first things I think about when.
Yeah, I think too. The tricky part with that is it's been a long time since I've got into. I say no. It's been a
It's
long.
following you. I want to say,
That joke is hilarious. I keep saying
Yeah.
about that.
I don't know. That's some AI type stuff.
But yeah, I think it's been a long time that I've took on a project, and it was more than what I think. A lot of times, what happens is you don't know in the front end that it's going to take to require more, and I think that's when it gets tricky. Like, what do you do then? I like he said, like the ways the systems and stuff are set up as far as like what I normally am doing, like making a beat or producing. Like, I'm already knowing like how much time, and normally it doesn't. But there has been, and it's been a minute, but there has been a situation where I just get in the studio and I'm like, oh shit! Off the first session, I'm knowing like, oh, this is gonna be this is gonna be much work, and that's what I'm still struggling with, like figuring out how to navigate those things, because it's different because I've already agreed, I've already agreed to the situation and stuff like that, and so I think what and like it's been a minute, but I think if I was to go back and like analyze myself and redo some things, I would spend much more time on the front end, like vetting some of the artists I work with and what they got going on and stuff like that. Because that's where it gets me. I get in the session and I hear record, I'm like, oh shit,
Bro.
oh shit, this gonna be a low night. Oh, we got 10 of these songs.
Here we go
Oh
again.
shit,
Here we go again.
here we go
Right?
again, bro. God damn.
Yeah. Now, I'll say this, man. Like,
My bad, y'all.
a lot of the way that I found to navigate this current iteration of the music industry and the money in it, it's just about doing things on the front end. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why those initial consults be very detailed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's to give me an actual roadmap of what's about to happen. And the same thing. Like, if I'm being real, like, no, I don't have the time for most projects to really engage in a mix with my analog gear the way that I want to.
Yeah.
But this is why I engage with that deeply while recording.
Yeah.
Right? On the way in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I go ahead and add the sheen and the shine that I think I would do during the mix. But that's the thing, is like, being proactive is more than just saying, hey, I'm going to be proactive. You have to have vision.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to predict what's going to happen 10 steps away and then do them or prepare for them now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I find that that keeps me from those scenarios
Yeah.
where I'm like, ah, damn, I ain't even realize I signed up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and or you know, if I'm being 1,000, I've definitely had those consultations, and I'm like, oh damn, this is gonna be a tough one. And this is back in the Dirty Socks days. Yeah. I've definitely had those moments and been like, yo, I got 2 producers.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Let me cut my teeth.
Exactly.
No
those are the right styles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dang.
They gonna get the job done.
Absolutely.
Might not be me, but I got you.
Got you.
We gonna get you. We gonna
Right,
be right.
right. Period.
I got all the patience in the world. I'm trying to figure it out too. Like, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, yo. Just as a disclaimer before I bring this up, yo, shout out to everybody I worked with. I'm not talking about you. That's my disclaimer. But y'all ever notice just the trend that like the least talented people be the most willing and ready to pay
Every damn
you know what I'm
time.
saying? Hard working.
Make me stand up.
Every time.
Make me stand up. I'm about to pull a Kid Mike. Every time. Like I can't, man. And Shanika would be talking about this too all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like every client is not a great client.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I've found that like the most lucrative like clients, the most lucrative partnerships are always the ones that like here's the first version. Okay, 1 revision, great. All right, we're done.
Man.
Yeah. Right? Like they trusted me, they trust my vision, they know they did enough research on me so that way when they chose me, they knew what they would get. Right? They knew what I was capable of and that's what they wanted. Right? And then it's always somebody that's like, hey, how much for 1 rib? That's the dude. That's the dude that's like, they will blame them not knowing what they want on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. Let me explain something. We're ultra flexible. We're ultra ready to adapt, to switch up, change ideas, all of that stuff. But there's a dramatic difference between like saying like, hey, I want this mix to sound like Taylor Swift. Right? And then you get a pop mix. Now, and then you're saying, it's one thing to say, not this Taylor Swift song, another Taylor Swift song. It's another thing to say, you know what, after thinking about it, I kind of want to go AT Aliens out here.
What?
That's
The fuck?
You know what I'm saying? And that's when it's like, what the fuck have I got myself into?
Man.
You know.
they be wanting all the revisions and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of the consultation is not just me listening to you, determining how good you are, what you do, and you telling me what you want. I'm also asking questions to size up how sure of you are what you want, right? How likely are you to, like, if you come across as like, I don't really know, okay, you're going to get a price that's built off of,
I don't know.
I'm going to have to present you with a whole bunch of different options.
Every time.
You know what I'm saying? And then you're going to have to pick the one, and you might change your mind. That's a different price than me seeing and you know exactly what you want. Yeah. You want 1 slice of cheese. You want lettuce, no tomato. You know what I'm saying? Not, I don't know what I want to eat. I got to give you a burger. Let me get a taco. Can I get a taco burger?
Hey, them just fired though. Them hoes good.
For tacos, burgers, salads. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Shout out to
absolutely.
them taco burgers, man.
Bro, trying to go to McDonald's. We're trying to get the McDonald's price for the 5-star meal.
man, that's right.
That's how it is even for songwriters. Like, shoot, folks be wanting you to make them sound like such and such, and hey, I'll be like, my brother.
That's interesting. So like, yeah, as a songwriter, like, how do you approach that? I feel like as a producer or engineer, it's like, all right, well, I won't use this equipment. I won't use these plugins. I won't use this, routing system or whatever. I won't use these type of sounds. But like, as a writer, like, what is a, I guess, less version of you in that sense?
I'll use a great example. Well, I've gotten a couple of them. But I guess the most recent one that I wrote for help someone arrange their song. They were pretty open to it. They were pretty open to the way that I broke it down for them and everything. Like they wrote the song. She wrote the song. Shout out to Matt for that opportunity. Though. But she wrote the song, but it was like 3 columns of stories, and I was just like, hey, let's break it down to this, make it sound like this, and the other. She was good with that. But then you have your other people who I've written for. They were like, oh, this ain't me. This doesn't sound like me. Like I need this to sound like this, or I need this to sound like this, but I don't sound like the person that I'm trying to sound like technically. And I'm just like,
That's it.
That's
Nah,
some engineering shit. Oh my god.
Bruh,
Yeah.
woo, man, this is really triggering right now.
yeah.
I done been through too, like, man,
Yeah.
let me fall back. Y'all got it.
No,
Definitely.
that's a real place, like, because people don't talk about that, like, and then people will get mad at me or mad at the Mads or the LJs or the C majors and be like, oh, well, it's your fault because you're not giving me what I asked for. No, you're not realizing where you are in your artistry to even realize that, hey, maybe I'm not fit for this kind of part. Let's take it. Let me hear some people that are experienced in what I'm trying to do, and maybe they can bring the vision that I'm really looking for to life, and maybe even make me sound better than what I thought I was gonna sound.
Yeah, I think people be so ready to fight, so ready to like, you know, to like, you know, feel like, you know, because it's the music industry.
Yup.
There's a rep in the music industry that like you gotta be a shark.
Everybody
Yeah.
had to get you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
you just don't realize like, okay, bro, you came in here talking about you want to sound like, you know, I don't know, man. Your voice sound like Rick Ross, and you want me to mix you like Drake, and it's just
Bruh.
like,
It's like
It's not happening.
and it's like, bro, do you not know you out here saying whoa?
You sound like what?
And there is just a lack of self awareness at times that you got to find a way to like, you know, navigate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why, you know, I'm just being honest. Like, I don't like right now, like these stories and even this conversation for me, like I'm speaking about like just a past life because I just don't do this no more. I've gotten to the point where it's just like, it's just not worth like my nervous system, how it's going to land on. It's just not worth it dealing with anyone doing anything in a way to where you're just lacking of like obviousness or self-awareness or, you know, anything like that. Like, I'm not like, you know, I'm at a point in my life where I realize like, I'm trying to take people with a bachelor's degree into a master's. I can't be teaching you third grade shit anymore. There are third grade teachers for that. Like, I'm sorry. I did that for a long time. You know what I'm saying? You come in here and, you know, you're just on some like, you know, I don't know, man. If I clearly see that, even if I clearly see in your character that like this song you're about to make is not going to do anything, right? I'm, you know, at best I might pass it off to somebody who just need the money. At you know, but what I probably would just do is just pass.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's why I was saying it's like triggering because I had to go back into like previous eras of my life and remember how frustrating this was. You know what I'm saying?
Man. Again, before I actually was on some like, I want to live off of this. I definitely was in that space of like, every song I need to give, you know, I need to give all of me to every song and shit. And it got to a point where I'm like, bro, this is taking too much of me trying to, you know, hold that standard up with some artists that's not as good or they want more after we've already had the discussion. Now they want a revision here and do that. I'm like, hey, bro, you know. But and then not even just that, it's more so at that time, and I still do, I cared about the music so much to where like, this can be amazing. I'm trying to fix some shit. It's like, bro, you can't fix that. Like just the reality of it. Like engineers, like everyone looks at engineers and be like, bro, y'all niggas wizards and all this shit. Like, yeah, that's true, but it also takes certain type of ingredients to get the final product. You know, we can't just what's the phrase?
You need great source material.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's it. Is, you know, and source material isn't just recording quality. It's
Man.
you, the artist.
Man.
Like,
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the most important.
That's
source.
right.
That's
Exactly.
right.
That's the
That's
source.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, Real quick, I think my man is still on this one idea. He said, fidelity wise, there's no analog digital difference. Hence Soldier Boy, which is a crazy example of just from a nerd standpoint. I am so confused and bewildered by this statement. For a few reasons. Number one, there absolutely is still a difference.
Big ass difference.
Yeah, and it makes me think you don't have access to these actual devices. Otherwise, you would hear that. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you don't have the ear to hear that, which is also possible. But even if you did, and all of that was a legit case, to bring up Soldier Boy as the okay, here's my example, is the wildest thing of that statement.
Man, but hold on though. We can't talk about Soulja Boy though. There was a version of Superman that came out before he signed the deal. That was fucking.
Yeah.
It was a great song from the jump, but it sounded horrible. And when he got
Very
with
much
Nitty
so.
and went to Atlanta, and they recorded that shit
got
on
right.
on a Fairchild and a bunch of other shit that they had in the studio, and ran
Made
his
a big ass
FLB
difference.
through
Big
probably
ass
SSL.
difference.
It made a very huge difference.
Man, I didn't never heard that story. That's
Bro,
crazy.
bro, there was a version of that
Yeah.
nigga in Alabama or wherever the fuck he from where he's dancing to that song and
Yeah.
it sounds
He's from
horrible.
Batesville.
The OG version of it is straight, almost phone recording.
And Nitty,
Like,
Nitty wasn't like I think Nitty co-executive.
Nitty
Of course,
on that
Soulja
beat.
produced. He made all his beats, but I think Nitty like co-produced that whole album that he did, and they got together and redid all of those nights. And even if they didn't redo it, they took stems from FL. He had to bring his laptop and take his shit from FL out of there, and it was a huge difference. But even now,
Hear that original version. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a difference for sure.
there's a difference.
Big difference.
Especially if you're recording like vocals, bro. You can't
that's-
mimic that. Bro.
That's the thing is like, and we're not even getting into the to the weeds of it. Like, there's not just a difference. There's a difference in which analog stuff you're running. So I mean, like, there's
Yeah.
levels in that. Like,
Colors.
like there's it's not just like, okay, this is bigger than the plug-in version. Then there's like, all right, well, which analog device are we running through or are we using? And that is there are differences that aren't even like up and down, left and right, like different
Yeah.
texture, different style,
Yeah.
different
The
different
coloration
warmth,
of it,
different. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So to say it's the same, that's nah. That's just not
Yeah.
true. That's just not true. I can't even be like, that's an opinion. No, it's not. That's just wrong. Like, it's not true. Yeah. Sorry, my G.
Sorry.
Appreciate the comment. Though.
Shout out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My G Colway, what up, bro?
What up? What up?
Just, let's talk about the taco burger. Just
Hey,
to
them
be-
talk.
Boy,
Hey,
them
facts
Taco
though.
Charge a whole
Them
bunch of
hoes
money for that, my G. Let's get the money.
Man, facts.
for real.
Let's get it. Man,
And them
are
nachos.
I think so.
we at the end?
Believe
Hell
so,
yeah.
All right, so let me make sure that we are ending this correctly. Yeah, so if you haven't already, download the Unapologetic World app, available for iOS and Android devices. This has been another episode of Type Beat, a producer engineer podcast, where we discuss all things we really just want to talk about. We're live from outer space, an unapologetic studio. My name is I Make Mad Beats, and today my cast is
LJ1S.
Unique.
C major.
D-Goat. Kid Maestro.
Let me line this up. So okay.
Bitch, are you jealous?
Oh shit, here we go again.